Well, hello there. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Natasha Daniels, and I am streaming this in a couple of different places. So some of you may not know me. I am streaming this on YouTube and my page and two of my groups. So I wanted to come in today and talk about the AT parenting community and let you know that the doors are open because as parents who are raising kids with anxiety or OCD, we struggle so much with a lot of different things. I'm going to talk about the four main things that parents struggle with when they're raising kids with anxiety or OCD that become a barrier. And there is support out there, there is help out there. And a lot of times parents just don't realize that. And so I feel like in the past, I haven't done a good enough job letting people know of the resources that are out there. The four main areas that parents struggle with when they are dealing with anxiety or OCD is they feel so alone. It's a really isolating experience to feel alone. And for those of you that don't know me, I am an anxiety and OCD child therapist, and I have three kids with anxiety or OCD. I actually have an 11-year-old, they're getting older. I have an 11-year-old, 13-year-old, and now a college student, 19-year-old. And I get this. And I have my own anxiety disorder. And so I get this on a personal and professional level. And I know it can feel really isolating for lots of different reasons. And so I'm going to go through the different reasons why parents can feel alone and disconnected from resources, which is really important for us to be connected. So feeling alone these are the four main struggles. Feeling alone, and these are the ones that I can think of. Feeling alone, feeling like you don't have access to help. And so sometimes there could be barriers for all sorts of reasons. You can not be able to find a therapist who works with anxiety or OCD, or you can't find a child therapist who works with someone who has anxiety or OCD. Your child may not be willing to go to therapy, or it could be a financial barrier, or it could be all of those, or there are no therapists. And so that's a huge barrier. The third one, I made a little list, so I'm looking at it, is you don't know your role. So sometimes our kids get into treatment or they get support, and then we're like, okay, that's great, but what am I supposed to do? Or who's going to help support me support my child? Because it's taxing, it's emotionally and physically draining. And so to know your role is really important as well. And the last one is that your child feels alone. And when your child feels alone, they are less likely to communicate to you their anxiety or OCD themes. They're less likely to work on their themes. They're more likely to hide it, to feel embarrassed, to feel shameful. And that actually causes a lack of progress. And so I'm going to talk today about how to address those struggles and what we can do to support you. For those of you that are joining live, feel free to tell me where you're coming from so I know I'm not talking to myself. I am streaming this in multiple places, and so I won't see your name unless you give permission, and that's totally fine. Just know that I'm using a third-party streamer, and so I'm not going to know who's talking to me until maybe afterwards. But when I saw these four struggles, when I saw people struggling with feeling alone, not being connected to resources, their kids feel alone. They don't know any other kids or teens who have anxiety or OCD. That was kind of what started my journey in providing resources online. I was doing, I had a private practice and I was helping my own kids, but I realized that there are parents who need this support globally. And so I started to create some resources. I created the AT Parenting Survival podcast. I created a YouTube channel so that kids and teens can watch videos and be able to see that. You know what? I'm wondering if I can't even see comments on here for some reason. Oh, you know what? It's because I'm on the wrong spot. You guys are talking to me and I can't even see it. Well, welcome, Ellie from the UK and someone from New Jersey. I was actually from New Jersey, and Biba from Pennsylvania. I'm sorry, I was actually clicking something else and I didn't see anyone commenting. I'm like, I'm just talking to myself. Vancouver, which I love, watching on Facebook from Bucks County, Pennsylvania. So welcome. Thank you guys for writing that. It's always nice to know that I'm not by myself. So I started to create resources, free resources, like a podcast, YouTube channel, and my website, but in a large public Facebook group that some of you are probably watching from, which we've got 34,000 parents in there who are raising kids with anxiety or OCD. But a lot of people reached out to me over the years and said, I want more. Welcome, Diana from West Virginia. I want more. I want I want to work with you, and I can't work with everyone. For many of you, you already know that my husband passed away 2 years ago, and I closed my private practice, and I just doubled down and said, I'm going to really focus on providing people online with that support. I think that's really important. I was listening to podcast, then switched to live. Yay. See, you're getting me in like 2 ears at once. And so some people want that more in-depth support. And I want to be able to provide you with that support on whatever level. So if you like just listening to my podcast and my YouTube channel, that's great. I provide free resources for parents every single week. New podcast every week on anxiety or OCD. New YouTube channel video every week for your kids or teens with OCD or anxiety. But some people really want me to walk with them on their journey, and they want a really tight-knit community to walk with them as well. Rena said, hi, Natasha, watching from Massachusetts. You've been so helpful. Oh, I'm glad to hear that. So when I created the AT parenting community, I created it in 2019 for those people. I would get emails all the time and messages. How can I work with you directly? And I'm only one person. And I felt like I could create, not only can I work with people directly in a community, but I can create a community that's beautiful that can support each other. And so when we go through these 4 things, when people are saying, I feel so alone, creating the AT parenting community was creating and developing this world that was beyond me, that parents can support parents on a much more in-depth level. Because I know for me, I have social anxiety. So going into a Facebook group of 34,000 people is overwhelming. And even like I have someone going in there and adminning it. Thank you, Lynn, because it's too big for me to handle. And so I like a small group. I want to get to know people's names and their struggles and what they're going through. And so having that really tight group is helpful. So in the AT parenting community, we typically have about 1,000 people in our member Facebook group. And we have normally about like 1,200 to 1,300 members at any given time because it's a monthly membership and people can come and they make progress. And normally within 3 or 4 months, people are making pretty big progress. But the Facebook group is only one tiny, tiny component of it. And Ellie said, my child has ADHD, so that goes hand in hand with anxiety. And it definitely does. And actually, a lot of people, I would say almost all of us in the AT parenting community have kids with comorbid conditions. So we have kids who have ADHD, we have kids who have ASD, we have kids who have pandas pans, we have kids with Tourette's, a lot of kids with anxiety, OCD, body-focused repetitive behaviors like picking and pulling. A lot of the things that like to hang out together, we are working with. And so people feel like they're not alone because we also, besides just having the Facebook group, which is a tiny part, we have a Zoom support group call for the kids, the teens, and the parents. They're 3 separate phone calls, and we do that once a month. Well, AT parenting support 20-year-olds who tend to ruminate over anxiety. It's actually a community that's meant to support the parents. And so we do have some support for the kids, but not young adults. But we have a lot of parents in there who are raising young adults because they need this support, especially if their children are living with them and they still need that support. That can be really helpful. My daughter has social anxiety and depression. I'm trying to get a lawyer for her. Not sure why a lawyer, maybe a therapist. That would be helpful. Yeah. So it is, to answer your question, and I won't know your names, and I apologize because unless you give permission, I can see some of your names, but I won't see all of yours. Yes, we have a lot of young adults that we have a lot of parents who are raising young adults. So it's very appropriate for that. For any anxiety issue, ruminating sometimes is an OCD issue as well. And so we do have that support. What I do like about that, yes, young adult parent here, he's 20 and away at a college. Yeah, I mean, it's nice to just have a community of people who support you. Some parents have joined when their kids were like 16 and now they're young adults. And so sometimes people grow in the community, but also understanding, and especially, Margaret said 22 and lives with me. If your child or young adult child lives with you, it's very helpful because you're getting that daily support. But also, even if I had a child who isn't with me, but is in college, I still want to fully understand anxiety or OCD. I want to understand how it works. I want other people to support me. So a lot of people in the AT parenting community join for different reasons. Some people just want a community. And so having that Facebook group, we have a member only website that has a forum in it. And so if they want more privacy or if they want to talk to me directly, some people just want a therapist on tap. And so having me on tap and going into the forums in the member website, which has a password, so you have to log in, is gold for some people, because they're kind of like, like, I can't reach my therapist, or I don't have a therapist, or my daughter's calling me from college and I don't know what to do or how to respond. And to have, that's my full-time job now, Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. If I get a message in the forums, I'm there giving that support. And so I really get to know some people really in depth because they are tapping into the forums. So the Facebook group tends to be for the other parents to support each other. And we've had members in there for like 4 years because it started in 2019. We still have some original members in there. They got better, but they stuck around to support other people, which I really love. I think that's really impressive. And so some people just want the free courses. And so you can get access to over $350 worth of my courses for free. You get free access as long as you're a member. And so for some people, they're like, I just want to soak up the learning. I just want to take courses. So I find that members join for different reasons. Margaret said, I'm trying to get some financial help for her. Yeah, and that can be helpful. That's not my world. I'm more of the mental health aspect of that, but I totally get that. So when you're feeling alone, a community like the AT parenting community helps you, because the Zoom calls once a month, being able to access the Facebook group, being able to go into the forums, and you can actually search in the forums. So you pick up a topic and you're like emetophobia. You can see all the dialogue that's been going on for the 4 years of different advice that has been going on, and know that you're not alone. The second barrier I think that a lot of us feel is that we don't feel like we have access to help. And there's nothing worse than sitting around twiddling your thumbs, waiting to get off that wait list, or waiting for a therapist to call you back. When you're dealing with OCD, the wrong type of therapist can actually wind up causing bigger issues than seeing nobody. And so there are a lot of parents that are like, I just need to get some support. And it's not rocket science. And so even though this is psychoeducational and not therapy, and I'm just coaching you, it's very easy once you explain it. And a lot of times people just don't realize what they need to do in order to get started. Michelle said, you've been so helpful for our family. Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. And so the coolest part about the AT parenting community is that when people actually do wind up getting into therapy, the best, most satisfying thing that I ever hear is that the therapist goes, wow, you know a lot. How did you learn all this? And we're going to jumpstart therapy. And we're like skipping all the basic steps because you already know so much, which I think is really, really helpful. And so I think that getting that jumpstart is really, really important. And you can do that in the AT parenting community in many different ways. You get free access to one of my big courses. So you can get free access to how to help a child crush anxiety, or how to help a child crush OCD, or how to help a child crush social anxiety. So you take that and you learn as a parent, because you're the front row, how am I supposed to help my child do this? That's actually how the AT parenting community got started. Is my son was starting to have big issues with anxiety and OCD. And I was pulling him into my home office once or twice a week, trying to do like sessions with him. And then I realized that we weren't really having very productive sessions. And he was kind of like, I don't really want to go into your home office. And the learning was happening in the moment when he was having a hard time. And it solidified to me the understanding that parents, whether we want to or not, we are the front line. And we need the tools in the moment. How am I supposed to respond to my child when they are compulsively asking me reassurance questions? What am I supposed to do when my child is refusing to go to school because they're afraid of throw up or afraid of separating? What am I supposed to do when my child is afraid to sleep and they're keeping me up all night? Like, what's my role in that? And we have a big role to play, not the full piece of the puzzle. How am I supposed to motivate my child when I want them to work on their anxiety or OCD and they don't want to talk about it? Those are really important questions. And a lot of times we're left not knowing the answer. And so taking a simple course that's like less than 3 hours that will literally give you all the foundation is one aspect. Some parents are too overwhelmed and they're like, I just can't even take a course. I'm like, I have no battery. Then they go in the forums and they say, Natasha, this is what's going on. What do you think I should do? And I'll be like, okay, here's a game plan. Right. And I'm just here to support and guide. I'm not the therapist, but I'm here to support and guide. And I'll be like, here are some videos to watch. Can you say it to them in this way? What's the core fear? And then we have this dialogue. And then all of a sudden, sometimes parents are like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that the core fear was this. That opens up a whole new thing. Or I didn't realize the issue was this. Now I get it. And so we don't want to wait for that aha. You don't have to wait for professional support. And a lot of therapists actually recommend the AT parenting community in order to supplement therapy, because helping the family while helping the child is a lot for a therapist. And I know for myself, when I was in my private practice, I'd tell parents, take my course so that we can save you like 2 sessions. We'll save you some money. Let's just jumpstart this. And so a lot of anxiety and OCD therapists who are aware of my community and who are in the OCD world will recommend the community because it fills in the gap. Like, I know that there's clinically sound support there. And so I know that the family is getting supported. Therefore, the child or teenager will do better, because when we do better and we know our role, they do better, which I think is important. Marina said, the community is super supportive with lots of resources, has helped me so much in understanding my son with OCD and anxiety. You're not alone, and I can't thank this community enough, and all the opportunities to learn and grow. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it makes a huge difference. And when you're going into a school or you have relatives that make you feel like you're crazy, or you're being manipulated, or it's not a big deal, then you go online and you have this community, or you go on the Zoom call and you have this community that says, you are not crazy. You are not making a big deal out of something small. You are being, proactive, or I went to school and this is what I said, or that happened to me and this is what I said. And so then when you go and you're physically alone trying to advocate for your child, whether it's through the medical arena or the school arena or your family arena, you feel supported because you have all those people who have validated you. And there is so much power in feeling validated and heard, that even if you are physically alone when you're dealing with something like that, you feel empowered to say, I've got this because I know I'm not crazy. And you know what? They told me you were going to say that. And I know what I'm going to say back to that because I was expecting it. So that is a huge thing. And so, yeah, the guidance and support is on tap. And then you have the forums. And then I forgot to mention, we actually do weekly classes. And so the AT parenting community votes on a topic. I don't control the content of the community. We have a library full of resources, videos, the courses, worksheets, and things like that. We have guest speakers that have come in. But on a weekly basis, the members vote on a topic, and then I teach on it every Friday. And even if people don't want to live on Facebook, because I'm not even a Facebook fan, we upload it to the member website. So you actually really never have to go on Facebook if you don't want to. And so you have a library of, I think, over like 200 live classes from when we started in 2019. And so that's a search database in and of itself. So the live classes are helpful. And then the courses. And then when you don't know your role, that's the third barrier. When you don't know your role and you're kind of like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. They tell me not to do reassurance, or they tell me to pull back reassurance, or they tell me that I need to force my child to do this. But how am I supposed to do that? That's where the forums come in. I can help you. I can give you that support. That is also where the other parents come in, because we are a very eclectic group of parents. And so there's parents there who are raising toddlers. There's parents there who are raising kids in their 20s. There are parents there who are dealing with comorbid conditions like ADHD and anxiety or OCD, or ASD and OCD, or anxiety and OCD. We have PANDAS and PAN. We have a lot of people with PANDAS and PANS. And so people have been there. And so the ones that have 10-year-olds can help you with your toddler. The ones with the 20-year-olds can understand with the 18-year-olds. When you have a toddler, you can get that support from someone else. And so there is this kind of like giving of each other, which I really appreciate. Let me just see what you just said. Michelle said, our therapist suspects anxiety and moral OCD for our 8-year-old. We're doing a formal assessment at a local psychiatrist, but they never heard of moral OCD. I'm worried they can't provide an accurate diagnosis. I don't know of local ERP experts in the area. I think we may have to use your tools and do it ourselves. Your videos have helped me realize what is going on with him. Even your suggestions for the app that play the sleep music has helped. He's finally less afraid to sleep, which is yay. That's also really good. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't know in depth about OCD. They don't teach that in most graduate programs. And so someone who wants to be an OCD therapist has to go, typically, unless they're in a really great program that teaches about OCD, which are incredibly rare, they have to find their own education. They have to go to the International OCD Foundation, take the BTTI program, or do something to get their own education. And so a lot of times mental health professionals will think OCD is just about the basics, excessive washing, a need for control, organizing, straightening. And they won't realize that things like moral OCD, which to me is actually one of the most common themes in kids and teens, is an OCD theme, which can get very difficult because if you don't understand moral OCD or harm OCD, or all the other types of OCD that have nothing to do with hand washing per se, then you're not going to know how to treat it. And it is tricky to find an ERP therapist because a lot of therapists have never heard of ERP. And ERP is is one of the strongest, most evidence-based approaches to OCD. And yet there's a education gap between understanding that and mental health professionals, which is really scary to me. And so, yeah, unfortunately, Michelle, a lot of people do have to do it themselves until they find the right therapist. Luckily, since COVID, one little silver lining of COVID is that there is more virtual care, and there's a PsyPact, which actually helps you, and NoCD, which Marina said there, will connect you. So you can always go to treatmyocd.com and see if they have a therapist in your area, because they do have a huge panel globally, not even just in the US, but globally. And they do take a lot of insurances. And you can also try the iocdf.org/find-help and look for those that will do virtual, because there is a lot more reciprocity for the licenses in the States now because of COVID. So that does help too. I do feel though, regardless, thank you. I think it's Ayla who's linking all these things. I appreciate it. Your name is not showing up. I don't know who you are. But I think the important thing is to get your own support and education, and to know that, yes, you might be more educated than the therapist that you're seeing. And that unfortunately, especially when it comes to OCD, if you're not educated, you won't be educated enough to know when someone is not helpful, when someone is using non-evidence-based approaches for OCD, which is really, really scary. And so that's another big component. I just want to go back to where I was talking about. Yeah. And so I do feel like knowing your role in that moment when you are struggling, my child is doing these compulsions. What am I supposed to do? There's, you can get that in-depth support in the forums, by other parents, by the courses. And the last one I want to mention, and I'm going to actually put a banner up here so that you guys know the link to go to join the AT parenting community, because the doors are open now, but they do close on Thursday, the 16th, this Thursday. And I do that on purpose because I want to have 100% focus on the people that are in there. So I only open up the doors a few times a year so that I can give you that opportunity. But I also want to focus on the parents that are in there. Like I said, I'm getting a lot of forum questions. We're doing a lot of support. I don't know who said that, but someone said they just joined. And so I'm excited for that. Thank you. I can't wait to see you over there. And for those that really dive into the resources, I actually really get to know you, because the last component is that our kids feel alone. And initially when I created the AT parenting community, I was thinking it was just for the parents. And it's grown and evolved since 2019 because it's a community. And so it's their community, and I am part of the community, but I am not the be all and end all of the community. And so over the last 4 years, members of the community will say, Natasha, can we have this? Natasha, can we have that? And if it's reasonable, I would say, you know what, that's a good idea. Let's create that. And so what has happened in the last 3 years is we've created a lot of resources for the kids. And so we were doing the monthly Zoom calls for the parents, and the parents were like, can't we do this for the kids? And I thought, oh, okay, we can. So we created a monthly Zoom call for the kids. And then the parents were like, my teenager is feeling like that's too babyish. Could we do one just for the teenagers? And so then I was like, all right. So then we created a Zoom call for the teenagers. And so we have one for the kids, one for the teenagers, one for the parents. And then the kids were talking and the teens were talking in the Zoom calls, and they were saying, I wish we could talk and connect more often. And I don't know how to connect with other kids who have anxiety or OCD. And the parents were saying, is there a way that you can help us connect? Because we don't allow them to share information on the Zoom call because we don't know if parents are okay with that. But I wanted to connect them in a better way. I didn't want to babysit it, but I also didn't want to have all these people needing support and not being connected. And so then we created the buddy program, which was very simple. I was like, how can we create something where people can connect with each other and then they do it? They handle it themselves. And so we created this Google Doc that we admin and we make sure it's up to date. And we put kids' actually parents fill in the form and they put whatever they want, whatever they're comfortable with about their child. And so they might say, I have a 10-year-old and their primary issue is like moral OCD and they love Roblox and we live in this state, which they don't have to put if they don't want to. That's actually something new that we added because people wanted to meet in person. And so we constantly are evolving and growing. And then they get buddies and they can have as many buddies as they want. And the cool thing is they'll talk on these Zoom calls and they'll be like, I just drove across the state to meet my buddy, or I was having a panic attack, but my buddy told me to do this and that. And so a lot of them have actually met in person, even though they are in different places around the country. And a lot of them have developed best friends. And so that really wasn't what the AT parenting community was meant to be, but it's evolving and growing. And I love that because that's what a community does. It grows together. A lot of kids initially when they join don't want to have their video on. They're nervous about joining a support group, and they can join the Zoom support group with their video and audio off. And sometimes parents will just have it playing in the kitchen or in the living room. And over time, they get more and more comfortable because just hearing a live conversation of 20 other kids talking about their anxiety or OCD is so validating and normalizing, even if the child's not participating. And so there's power even in just listening to that. So I wanted to just come on here and let you know about the AT parenting community because the doors do close on Thursday. And a lot of times we always get emails afterwards saying people are like, I didn't know, but I didn't know. And I feel like, I don't like to be like, the AT parenting community is open, but I also don't want the parents who are desperate and waiting and wanting something like this, that they miss it just because I was uncomfortable vocalizing it. And so over the past year or two, I've been trying to get out of my comfort zone and just be like, people need to know about this. You can tap into my free resources. And for some people that's not enough. And so I want you to know that I do have this more in-depth resource for you. And I hope that you access it or access some of my resources, whether it's my podcast, AT Parenting Survival Podcast, or my YouTube channel. And if you want to walk more in depth with me and the members of the AT Parenting community, you can just go to atparentingcommunity.com. And I would love to have you over there and support you. If you have questions about the community, feel free to post a comment and I will answer any questions. And I should get tagged in most areas, wherever this is, my page and the groups, because it's in multiple places. But I can get tagged. And if you have questions, if you're watching this on a replay, feel free to ask questions and I'm happy to answer them for you because I know a lot of people have a lot of questions about that. And check out my free resources as well. And I look forward to seeing a lot of you over there where we will get to support you more in depth. We have our next Zoom call March 4th. We just had our Zoom call and I'm already seeing new parents coming into the AT parenting community and I'm getting to know them in the forums and already starting to problem solve some of the issues that are going on in their world and in their life. And I would love and be honored to be able to help you as well. So I hope that you have a fantastic day and I hope to see some of you over in the AT parenting community. Take care. Bye.